Maya had always laughed when the elders spoke of human warriors. She lived in a quiet village, surrounded by hills and rivers, where stories of humans who could perform impossible feats were shared around evening fires. To her, these stories were amusing, nothing more. She could never imagine humans being so brave, so strong, or so clever. They were far away, strangers from distant lands, and surely exaggeration filled every tale. Her daily life was calm. She helped her family gather food, tend the small animals, and keep the house in order. Maya enjoyed simple pleasures, watching the sun rise over the hills, feeling the wind across the river, and listening to the songs of birds. She also liked to read about faraway places, about creatures and people who lived in lands unlike hers. Still, when humans were mentioned, she only shook her head and laughed. One morning, as the sun painted the sky in soft oranges, a human arrived in her village. He was tall and quiet, with eyes that seemed to notice everything around him. He did not boast or speak loudly. The villagers were curious, but they treated him with respect. Some looked at him in awe, whispering quietly to each other about his abilities and his calm confidence. Maya, of course, watched him from a distance. She wanted to see for herself whether he was anything special. At first, she was unimpressed. He did ordinary things. He helped carry water, fixed broken tools, and walked steadily through the village. Nothing about him seemed extraordinary. Maya smiled to herself, thinking that humans were just like everyone else. But life has a way of showing truth when it is least expected. That afternoon, the village faced a sudden challenge. A strong wind had knocked a large branch onto a path, and it blocked the way for anyone trying to reach the river. Some villagers had small animals trapped in a pen near the edge of the hill, and the path was the only way to reach them quickly. People panicked, unsure how to move the heavy branch safely. Without hesitation, the human stepped forward. Calmly, he assessed the situation. He spoke to the villagers in a clear, firm voice, explaining what needed to be done. He divided the villagers into groups, giving simple instructions. One group moved smaller debris, another secured the animals, while he himself took charge of clearing the main obstacle. Maya watched, a little surprised at how naturally he led the people. Then came the real test. The branch was larger and heavier than anyone had expected. Several villagers tried to push it aside, but quickly realized they were struggling. The human, however, worked carefully. He measured, adjusted, and used a long stick to leverage the branch. Slowly but surely the branch moved. It was not fast, but it was effective. Maya felt her heart beat faster as she realized that he was achieving something they all thought impossible. She noticed the way he moved, controlled, steady, and precise. Every action had a purpose. He did not rush or panic. Even when the branch shifted unexpectedly, he stayed calm and corrected it immediately. Maya had never seen such focus before. He reminded her of the stories she had laughed at, only now it was real. When the branch finally rolled to the side, the villagers cheered. They had saved the animals and cleared the path. Some hugged each other in relief. Maya stood silently, trying to process what she had just witnessed. The human had done something extraordinary, but not with magic or luck. He had done it with courage, intelligence, and calmness. Over the next few days, Maya watched him closely. She saw him help elders carry heavy loads, teach children to climb safely, and even calm frightened animals. Every action reflected strength of mind, body, and heart. It was not just physical power. It was the ability to think clearly, act decisively, and care for others. Slowly, Maya felt her laughter fade, replaced by a quiet respect. She also noticed how he interacted with people. He never demanded attention or praise. Instead, he listened carefully, smiled when someone succeeded, and offered gentle encouragement. Maya realized that being a warrior was not about boasting or showing off. It was about helping, guiding, and acting when needed. One evening, she walked near the river, thinking about the human and the events of the past days. She remembered all the stories she had laughed at, all the tales of human courage and strength. Could it be that there was truth in them? She had always thought humans were ordinary, but she now understood that courage could appear in many forms. Sometimes it was quiet, sometimes it was patient, sometimes it was simply the choice to act when others could not. The following morning, Maya saw him again, helping a group repair a bridge over the river. She decided to observe closely, curious to understand how he worked. The bridge was old and shaky, and the villagers were unsure if they could fix it safely. The human guided them step by step, demonstrating each action. He lifted a plank carefully, balanced it, and secured it in place. The villagers followed his lead, learning quickly and gaining confidence. Maya watched, amazed at how naturally he taught and led. It was then that she understood the truth of the myths. Humans were not only strong, they could inspire, guide, and protect. They could see what needed to be done and act decisively even in difficult situations. Maya felt a shift inside her, a mixture of awe, respect, and a desire to learn. The stories she had laughed at were not exaggerations. They were simply tales of people like this human, whose courage and skill made them remarkable. By the end of the day, Maya had a new feeling in her heart. She no longer laughed at the myths of human warriors. She had seen one with her own eyes, and that sight had changed her. The human had shown her something more important than strength. He had shown her the power of calm, careful action, and the courage to help when it mattered most. Maya returned home that evening, thoughtful and quiet. She had laughed at myths, but she had learned the truth. Sometimes reality was more extraordinary than any story. And in her mind, she promised herself that she would watch, learn, and maybe one day act with the same courage she had seen in the human warrior. The morning sun rose softly over the village, spilling golden light over the fields and hills. Maya woke early, her mind still full of thoughts from the previous day. She could not stop thinking about the human and his actions, the way he moved, the way he led, the calm confidence he carried. It all lingered in her mind like a quiet lesson she could not ignore. That day, a new situation arrived that would test more than just curiosity. The village's main water source, a small river that ran through the hills, had become blocked by fallen branches and stones. The villagers needed water to tend their gardens and animals, but the path was unsafe. Panic began to spread among them, and fear crept into their normally calm routine. The human walked calmly through the crowd, observing the scene. Maya watched him carefully. He did not rush or complain. Instead, he measured the river, looked at the obstacles, and spoke softly but clearly to the villagers. "We can fix this together," he said. "We just need to work carefully and step by step." Some villagers hesitated, unsure if they could trust him. Maya noticed their fear but also their growing curiosity. Slowly, they began to follow his instructions. He first guided a few to remove smaller stones, showing them how to balance their weight and lift safely. Then he focused on the larger branches, demonstrating how to move them gradually without causing damage. Maya felt herself drawn in. She could see the human's thought process, how he planned each step and considered the safety of everyone around him. It was not just physical strength that mattered. It was careful planning and clear thinking. The villagers worked together under his guidance, and little by little the river began to flow freely again. After the task was complete, the villagers cheered, their faces bright with relief. They thanked the human repeatedly, and Maya felt a mix of admiration and awe. She realized that his courage was not loud or flashy. It was quiet, steady, and thoughtful. That made it even more impressive. Later that afternoon, Maya had a chance to speak to him directly. She approached hesitantly, unsure of what to say. You did so much today," she said softly. "I didn't think humans could do these things." The human smiled gently. "It's not about being human," he said. "It's about helping, paying attention, and acting when it matters. Anyone can learn this." Maya listened carefully. His words made sense, and she felt a warmth in her heart. She realized that bravery was not just about stories or myths. It was about choices, about deciding to do what was needed even when it seemed difficult. Over the next few days, Maya continued to observe him. She noticed how he helped the children practice crossing the river safely, how he encouraged the villagers to try new methods in farming, and how he treated everyone with respect and patience. He never demanded attention, but people naturally looked up to him. Maya admired how he inspired confidence and calm, simply by being thoughtful and caring. One evening, as the sky turned soft pink and orange, Maya found herself walking near the riverbank. She watched the human helping a small group of villagers repair a broken cart. He showed them how to adjust the wheels carefully, how to use tools safely, and how to plan each step. Maya was amazed at how much he taught without showing impatience or frustration. Suddenly, a young child slipped near the river. Maya gasped, but the human reacted immediately. He reached out calmly, grabbed the child's hand, and guided him back to safety. There was no panic, no rush, just calm, careful action. Maya felt a deep respect growing inside her. She realized that real courage was not always about fighting or strength. Sometimes it was about being alert, helping others, and making careful decisions in critical moments. That night, Maya sat by the fire with her family. She could not stop thinking about the events of the day. She realized that the stories she had laughed at were not just myths. They were lessons showing how humans could act with courage, intelligence, and care. Maya felt a desire to learn from him, to understand how she too could act with courage in her own life. The next morning brought another opportunity for learning. A small group of villagers needed to cross the river to collect supplies from a distant hill. The path was slippery and uneven. Many villagers were hesitant, unsure if it was safe. The human calmly guided them, demonstrating each step and showing how to keep balance. Maya followed closely, learning the small movements, the careful planning, and the attention needed to succeed. By the time they returned, Maya felt a change inside her. She was no longer just an observer. She had learned, practiced, and experienced a small part of what made humans remarkable. She understood that courage was not about being the strongest. It was about careful thinking, steady actions, and a willingness to help others when it mattered most. As the days passed, Maya and the human began to speak more. She asked questions about his methods, and he answered patiently. He spoke about observing carefully, acting calmly, and always thinking about others. Maya practiced these lessons in her own tasks, whether helping her family, tending animals, or guiding younger villagers. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, Maya faced a personal challenge. A small goat had wandered into a dangerous area, and she needed to guide it back safely. Her heart raced, but she remembered what she had learned from the human. Observe, plan, act carefully, and stay calm. She approached the goat slowly, used gentle guidance, and led it back without fear. When she returned, the human smiled at her quietly. "Well done," he said simply. "You acted with care and courage." That is what matters. Maya felt proud. She realized that she had grown, not just in skill but in confidence. The human had taught her more than she expected. He had shown her that courage was not only for heroes in stories. It was for anyone willing to act with thought, care, and bravery. That evening, Maya looked out at the village, the river, and the hills. She thought about the human and the lessons she had learned. She no longer laughed at the myths of human warriors. She understood now that these stories held truth. Humans like the one she had met could inspire, guide, and protect. Courage and skill were real, and they could be learned. Maya felt a new respect growing within her. She wanted to learn more, practice more, and perhaps one day act with the same courage she had seen. The human had shown her that being brave was not about stories, it was about choices, actions, and the willingness to help when it mattered most. As night fell, Maya lay down to sleep with a quiet sense of wonder. She had laughed at myths, but now she understood the truth. Sometimes seeing was believing, and sometimes the lessons of a real-life hero were more powerful than any story could ever be. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of flowers and earth. Maya woke with a quiet excitement. The past days had changed her perspective. She no longer saw humans as distant, exaggerated figures from stories. She had seen courage, skill, and calmness in one human, and it had inspired her deeply. That day, the village had a task that seemed simple but required attention and care. The main market shed used for storing food and tools had a few broken panels. Strong winds could worsen the damage if not fixed quickly. Villagers were unsure how to repair it, fearing mistakes might make it worse. The human arrived quietly, as he always did, observing the shed first. He did not rush or speak loudly. Instead, he examined the panels carefully, checking which ones were loose and which needed support. Maya watched him, noting how he moved with purpose and patience. He then called a small group of villagers and explained the plan. "We will take it step by step," he said, "one panel at a time. Everyone has a role, and together we will fix it." The villagers nodded, following his guidance with growing confidence. Maya decided to help as well. She listened carefully, following his instructions. She noticed how he encouraged each person, praised their efforts, and corrected mistakes gently. Maya realized that real leadership was not about being loud or commanding. It was about guiding, supporting, and inspiring others to do their best. As the work began, Maya saw something new. She could feel herself learning not only from his words but from observing his actions. How he lifted a panel, held it steady, and secured it. Each movement was deliberate. He made it look easy, but Maya understood it required skill, focus, and patience. While they worked, the human shared small stories from his life. He spoke of times when he had faced challenges not with force but with careful thought and courage. Maya listened, fascinated. She realized that courage was not always about facing danger. It was also about trying something new, helping others, and staying calm when faced with difficulty. A little later, a small group of children approached, curious about the work. Some wanted to help but were unsure how. The human smiled and invited them to participate. He gave them simple, safe tasks, handing tools, holding materials, and observing the repair process. Maya watched as the children learned quickly, gaining confidence with each small success. By midday, the shed was repaired. The panels were secured and the structure looked stronger than before. The villagers cheered quietly, proud of their work and grateful for the humans' guidance. Maya felt a deep sense of accomplishment as well. She had not only observed but participated and learned. After the work was done, Maya stayed behind to speak with him. "I didn't think humans could teach so much," she said. "I thought stories were just stories, but I see now that there is truth in them." The human smiled kindly. "Stories often hold lessons," he said. "Sometimes they are exaggerated, but the truth is always there if we look carefully. Courage, patience, and care are qualities anyone can develop." Maya reflected on his words. She realized that she had grown in ways she had never expected. She felt more confident in her own abilities, more willing to try, and more aware of the importance of careful action. She understood that real courage was a combination of thought, care, and willingness to act. The next few days continued in a similar rhythm. Maya observed him in various tasks, helping villagers plant crops, guiding young animals safely to the pens, and organizing small repairs throughout the village. Each time he acted with calmness and confidence, inspiring others to do their best. Maya noticed the little things, how he encouraged effort rather than success, how he remained patient with mistakes, and how he led by example rather than by command. One afternoon, Maya faced a personal challenge. A small stream near the village had overflowed, and she needed to guide a group of animals to safety. She hesitated at first, unsure if she could manage it alone, but she remembered what she had seen in the human. Observe carefully, plan the steps, act with calmness. Maya took a deep breath. She first observed the stream, noting where the water was deepest and where the ground was stable. Then she guided the animals slowly, speaking gently to them and ensuring they moved carefully. Step by step, she led them to dry ground safely. When she finished, a sense of pride and confidence filled her. She had applied what she had learned and succeeded. The human noticed and approached quietly. "Well done, Maya," he said. "You acted with care and courage. That is what matters most." His praise felt sincere and thoughtful, and Maya realized she had grown in her own strength, not just by watching him but by practicing herself. That evening, Maya walked alone by the river, reflecting on the events of the past days. She understood something important. Courage was not about being the strongest or the fastest. It was about thoughtfulness, patience, and willingness to act for the benefit of others. She had laughed at myths before, but now she knew that real-life heroes were not stories. They were people who acted with care and bravery. Maya's respect for the human grew stronger with each passing day. She wanted to learn more, not just about tasks and skills, but about the qualities that made him remarkable. She realized that courage, patience, and thoughtfulness were lessons that could guide her entire life. Over the next week, the human continued to teach, often without words. Maya observed quietly, noticing how he solved problems, helped villagers, and encouraged children. She saw how he acted calmly when mistakes occurred, and how he guided others with respect. Each moment was a lesson, and Maya absorbed it eagerly. One day, Maya's mother asked her to guide a small group of children in collecting fruit from the hills. Normally, she would have felt nervous, unsure if she could manage the task. But remembering the human's guidance, she approached with confidence. She explained each step clearly, watched carefully, and acted calmly whenever a problem arose. By the time they returned, the children were smiling and proud, and Maya felt a deep satisfaction. That night, as Maya lay down to sleep, she thought about the human once again. She had laughed at myths of human warriors, but now she knew that courage was real, and it could be learned. She felt a quiet determination to practice these lessons every day, to act with thought, care, and bravery in her own life. Maya understood that the human had not only helped the village but had also helped her grow. She felt inspired to continue learning, observing, and applying the lessons of courage and care in everything she did. The stories she had once found amusing now had meaning, and she knew that seeing a real human in action had changed her forever. By the end of Part 3, Maya was no longer just an observer. She had begun to transform. She had learned patience, confidence, and the importance of calm, thoughtful action. She admired the human not only for his skill but also for his ability to inspire, teach, and act with quiet courage. The myths she had laughed at were no longer distant tales. They were living lessons she could see, learn, and follow. The morning sun rose gently over the village, painting the sky with soft shades of pink and gold. Maya awoke with a sense of purpose she had never felt before. The past days had changed her deeply. She no longer laughed at the stories of human warriors. She had seen courage in action, and now she wanted to practice it herself. That day, the village faced a small but important challenge. The path to the nearby hill where villagers gathered wild herbs and fruits had become slippery after a heavy rain. Several villagers needed to go there to collect supplies, but they hesitated, unsure if it was safe. Maya watched them nervously. She knew the path could be tricky, but she also remembered the lessons she had learned from the human: observe carefully, plan, act calmly, and help others. She took a deep breath and approached the group. "I will guide you," she said quietly. The villagers looked at her in surprise. Maya had never led such a task before. She felt a small flutter of fear, but she pushed it aside, thinking of the human and how he acted calmly even in difficult situations. First, she examined the path herself. She noticed the wet stones, the soft patches of mud, and the areas where branches blocked the way. Then she planned each step carefully. She spoke to the villagers, explaining where to step and how to keep balance. She reminded them to help each other and to move slowly. Her voice was steady, and she made sure to look at each person as they followed her instructions. Step by step, they moved along the path. Maya stayed close to the slower villagers, offering her hand when needed and encouraging them to be careful. She guided the children, showing them how to place their feet safely and hold on to branches for support. Every small success gave her more confidence. She felt a quiet pride as the villagers began to trust her guidance. When they reached the top of the hill, everyone smiled with relief and joy. They had collected the herbs and fruits safely, and Maya felt a sense of accomplishment she had never known before. The human, who had been observing quietly from a distance, approached with a gentle smile. "You acted very well," he said. "You guided them with care and courage. That is true strength." Maya felt warmth in her chest. His words were not loud or boastful, but they meant more than praise. They meant understanding and respect. She realized that real courage was not about being the strongest or fastest. It was about careful action, thoughtfulness, and helping others. In the days that followed, Maya began to take more responsibilities in the village. She helped organize small tasks, guided children in learning new skills, and assisted the elders in preparing food and supplies. Each task was a chance to practice patience, observation, and careful action. She remembered the human's example constantly, thinking about how he remained calm, focused, and helpful no matter what challenge arose. One afternoon, a stronger wind blew through the village, causing small branches to fall and some tools to scatter across the ground. Some villagers panicked, unsure where to start in collecting the scattered items. Maya stepped forward. She remembered how the human had faced challenges calmly and without panic. Taking a deep breath, she organized a small group, explaining clearly what to do first and how to work together. The villagers followed her instructions. Maya moved calmly among them, helping where needed and encouraging them to work carefully. Slowly, all the tools were collected and returned to their proper place. When it was done, the villagers smiled and thanked her. Maya felt a sense of pride and confidence. She realized that she could act courageously and wisely, just as she had seen the human do. That evening, Maya sat near the river reflecting on her growth. She remembered the early days when she had laughed at the stories of human warriors. She had thought courage was only for myths or legends, but now she understood that courage was a choice. It was about deciding to act, to help, and to face challenges with thought and care. The human approached quietly and sat beside her. "You are learning well," he said softly. Courage is not about showing off or being fearless. It is about noticing what needs to be done and acting carefully and wisely. Maya nodded. I understand now, she said. It is not about being the strongest. It is about helping others, staying calm and thinking carefully before acting. I want to practice this every day. The human smiled. That is good. Practice is important. Each small action helps build courage and confidence. You are learning more than you realize. Maya felt inspired. She thought about the tasks she had completed, the people she had helped, and the challenges she had faced. She realized that courage and skill were not only for stories, they were for real life, and she had already begun to develop them within herself. The next morning, a new opportunity arose. A young child had wandered into the hills and could not find the way back. The child's parents were worried, and the villagers were unsure how to help. Maya felt a mixture of nervousness and determination. She had never led a search before, but she remembered the human's lessons. Observe carefully, plan the steps, act calmly, and guide others. Maya organized a small group to search for the child. She spoke clearly, giving instructions and making sure everyone knew their role. She stayed calm, even as worry crept into her mind. Slowly, they moved through the hills, looking carefully for the child. When they finally found the child near a small grove, Maya guided him safely back to the village, speaking gently and reassuringly all the way. The child's parents thanked her, and the villagers looked at her with admiration. Maya felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She realized that courage was not just about facing danger. It was about taking responsibility, acting with care, and helping others even when it felt difficult. That evening, Maya reflected on her journey. She had laughed at myths, but now she understood the truth. Courage and skill were not only real, they were achievable through careful thought, practice, and a willingness to help others. She felt inspired to continue learning, to practice daily, and to guide others with care and confidence. The human approached once more, noticing Maya's thoughtful expression. You are growing, he said. You have learned to act with patience, thoughtfulness, and courage. Remember, every action counts, no matter how small. Maya smiled. She understood that the lessons she had learned were not only for the village or for today. They were lessons for life. She had grown from an observer into a confident, thoughtful, and capable person. She had learned the meaning of courage, not as a story, but as a living, practical part of life. As night fell over the village, Maya lay down to sleep with a quiet sense of pride and determination. She knew that her journey was not over. There would always be challenges, small or large, but she now had the tools to face them. She had learned from the human. She had practiced her own courage, and she had grown stronger and wiser with each passing day. Maya's heart was full of gratitude. She had laughed at myths, but she had seen real courage in action. She had learned that courage was patient, careful, and kind. And she knew that the lessons she had learned would guide her for the rest of her life. The morning light poured gently over the village, turning the hills golden. Maya woke with a sense of purpose and anticipation. The days of learning and observing the human had changed her completely. She no longer laughed at the stories of human warriors. She had seen courage in action and practiced it herself. Today felt like a day of new beginnings. The village had a special task that required teamwork, patience, and leadership. A small festival was approaching, where villagers would celebrate the harvest and share gifts of food and crafts. The central hall needed to be decorated, and everyone had a role to play. Maya felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She wanted to contribute more than ever before, to show what she had learned. The human was already there, quietly observing the preparations. He noticed Maya's determination and offered a warm smile. I see you are ready, he said softly. Remember, it's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about helping, guiding, and caring for others. Maya nodded. She gathered a group of villagers and began to organize the decorations. She instructed them on how to hang banners carefully, arrange tables, and display baskets of fruit and flowers. Her voice was calm and clear, and she encouraged everyone to work together. She remembered every lesson she had learned. Observe carefully, plan, act calmly, and help others. As the preparations continued, small challenges appeared. A banner fell, a basket tipped over, and some children got distracted. Maya handled each situation with patience, gently correcting mistakes and guiding everyone to try again. She encouraged smiles, laughed softly at small mishaps, and kept the energy positive. The villagers followed her example, learning to work together and remain calm. The human watched quietly, impressed by how much Maya had grown. He saw her confidence, her ability to organize, and her thoughtful approach to every task. When a tricky part of the decorations required careful teamwork, he allowed Maya to take the lead entirely. She guided the villagers with grace and confidence, ensuring each step was done safely and correctly. By mid-afternoon, the hall was ready. The decorations looked beautiful, the tables were set, and everyone was smiling with pride. The villagers praised Maya, and she felt a warm glow of happiness. She had acted with courage, skill, and care, and it had made a real difference. After the preparations, Maya walked to a quiet spot near the river. The human joined her, sitting down on a large stone. "You have learned much," he said. "You have seen courage, practiced it, and shared it with others. That is the mark of a true leader," Maya smiled. "I never thought I could do all this," she said. "I laughed at the stories of human warriors, but now I understand. Courage is not just about strength. It is about helping, staying calm, and thinking carefully." The human nodded. "Exactly. And you have learned it well. You have not only observed courage, you have practiced it. That is more important than any story." Maya felt a sense of pride and gratitude. She realized that she had grown in many ways: confidence, patience, careful thinking, and the willingness to act for the good of others. She thought about the past days, from the first time she had doubted humans to now, when she understood the truth. The myths had held lessons, and seeing a real human in action had made them come alive. As the festival began, Maya helped guide the children in serving food and sharing gifts. She showed them how to organize the tables, encourage teamwork, and care for one another. The villagers looked at her with admiration, seeing not only her skill but her kindness and patience. Maya realized that true courage and leadership inspired others, just as the human had inspired her. Later, during the celebration, Maya sat beside the human. She watched the villagers laugh, share stories, and enjoy the day. The human turned to her and said, "You have done well. You have learned to act with thought, care, and courage. That will guide you for the rest of your life." Maya felt a quiet happiness. She understood that courage was not about fame, strength, or recognition. It was about observing carefully, thinking clearly, and helping others when it mattered most. She had practiced it, she had learned it, and she had shared it with her village. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in warm oranges and purples, Maya reflected on her journey. She had laughed at myths, but she had seen real courage in action. She had learned, grown, and acted. She realized that heroes were not only in stories, they were people who chose to act with care, patience, and bravery. The human stood beside her, watching the villagers celebrate. "You have changed," he said softly. "You have grown from a curious observer into a confident, thoughtful, and capable person. Remember this feeling. Let it guide you in every challenge you face." Maya nodded. "I will. I understand now that courage is a choice and it can be learned by anyone willing to try." She smiled, feeling a sense of peace and determination. She knew that she had the tools to face future challenges, small or large, with calmness and care. That night, as the village settled into quiet, Maya walked to the riverbank one last time. The water reflected the stars above, and the gentle sound of the river brought a sense of calm. She thought about the human, about what she had learned, and about how she had changed. She felt grateful for the lessons, the guidance, and the inspiration she had received. Maya realized that she no longer needed to laugh at myths. She had seen courage in action, learned it for herself, and practiced it. She had grown in confidence, patience, and understanding, and she knew that the lessons she had learned would guide her for the rest of her life. The human watched her quietly, smiling. He had seen her transformation from a skeptic to a confident, capable young woman. He knew that she had not only learned the skills of courage, but also the heart of a true leader: patience, care, and the willingness to act for others. As they both stood and walked back to the village, Maya felt a quiet sense of pride and joy. She had laughed at myths once, but now she understood the truth. Courage, skill, and kindness were real. They were living qualities that could be learned, practiced, and shared. And in her heart, she carried the lessons that would guide her always. The festival continued late into the evening, full of laughter, stories, and joy. Maya moved among the villagers, helping, guiding, and sharing smiles. She felt confident in herself, In her abilities and in the courage she had cultivated, she understood that true strength was quiet, steady, and thoughtful. It was not about being the loudest or the fastest, it was about care, patience, and action when it mattered most. As the stars filled the sky, Maya stood beside the human one last time that evening. She looked at him and smiled. "Thank you," she said softly. "For everything. You have taught me so much, and I will carry it with me always." The human smiled gently. "You have learned well, Maya. You have grown, and your actions have inspired others. Remember, courage is a choice, and you have made it every day." Maya nodded, feeling a sense of completion. She had laughed at myths once, doubted stories, and questioned legends. But now she knew the truth. Real courage was real, and she had experienced it. She had learned from a human warrior, practiced her own bravery, and grown into a thoughtful, confident, and capable person. As the village settled into quiet sleep, Maya looked at the stars one last time. She felt grateful, inspired, and determined. She had learned that courage, patience, and care were lessons for life. And she knew that with these lessons, she could face any challenge, guide others, and act with heart and strength, just as she had seen in the human warrior who had changed her life forever.